Part 1. The moment reality starts whispering back, the hidden dialogue between you and the universe. It starts quietly, almost too quietly to notice if you're still asleep. A number shows up again and again on receipts, clocks, billboards. A stranger says the exact phrase you were just thinking. A song plays, and in its lyrics is the answer to a question you haven't spoken aloud. At first, you write it off. Coincidence, you say. But something deeper inside you doesn't believe that. And that's when it begins the unraveling of the illusion that life is random. That whisper in your chest that says, what if this means something? We've all been conditioned to believe that the physical world is the only world. That logic is king. That science owns the truth. But the chosen ones, those who carry a deeper soul blueprint, begin to feel the crack in that system early. We feel it in the dissonance between what we're told and what we know. We feel it when the world says we're imagining things, but every cell in our body says otherwise. And once you start noticing synchronicities, it's like the curtain lifts. Reality begins to show its real face. Synchronicity is not just about seeing repeating numbers or weird coincidences. It is a language, a vibrational system of communication between your higher consciousness and the intelligence that governs the universe. It's how God speaks without using words. It's how your soul leaves breadcrumbs for your waking self to follow. And for the chosen ones, it's not just occasional, it becomes constant, unavoidable, intrusive even. Like reality is tugging at your sleeve saying, wake up, you're being guided.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
But not everyone sees it, and that's because not everyone is tuned to the right frequency. Imagine trying to hear a song playing on FM radio while your receiver is stuck in AM. The song is there. The signal is broadcasting. But unless your system is calibrated, you'll think nothing's happening. The chosen ones are born with, or slowly develop through pain and spiritual initiation, a higher sensitivity. We start to feel the patterns before they become visible. We start to sense that something else is orchestrating behind the scenes. Have you ever found yourself thinking of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and then they message you within minutes? Have you ever had a dream that later played out in real life, down to the smallest detail? Have you ever been on the verge of giving up, only to receive a sign so specific it brings tears to your eyes? That's not random. That's not luck. That's alignment. That's the universe reminding you that you're not alone, and you never were. But why does it happen so intensely to the chosen ones? Because you were never meant to live a life of numbness. You were meant to remember. You were meant to awaken. You were meant to break the trance of this world and become a conscious participant in the co-creation of your destiny. And synchronicity is the divine tap on the shoulder, the cosmic wink, the sacred breadcrumb. It's God saying, you're on the path. Keep going. The more you listen, the more it speaks. That's the paradox. Most people wait for a huge miracle to believe. But belief is the antenna. Trust is the amplifier. The chosen ones begin to understand that this dance with the universe is not passive, it's interactive. The more we align with our soul's truth, the more the outer world reshapes itself to mirror that truth. Synchronicities increase, not because we're lucky, but because we're awake, And yet there's a deeper layer that most never talk about. Synchronicity is not always gentle. Sometimes it's jarring, brutal, disruptive. It tears relationships apart. It forces you to leave jobs, cities, entire identities behind. Because once you start receiving the signs, you can no longer pretend you don't see. And ignoring them becomes a kind of spiritual violence against yourself. The chosen ones often suffer not because they're cursed, but because they're being redirected. Have you ever felt like your life was being torn apart by invisible hands? Like no matter how hard you try to control it, things keep falling away. That's synchronicity doing its deepest work. It's not just about signs on clocks. It's about the orchestration of collapse, so that the divine blueprint can rise. And once you see this, you stop resisting. You begin to trust the chaos. You begin to listen to the disruption as guidance. This isn't about magical thinking. It's not about looking for signs in everything. It's about recognizing the pattern of intelligence that flows through your life when you are in alignment with your purpose. The chosen ones begin to live in conversation with the universe. You speak through your intentions. It answers through synchronicity. You ask with your energy. It responds with reality. And when you surrender to this dialogue, life becomes not easier but clearer. This is where things get interesting. Because once you understand that synchronicity is a language, you can start to speak it back. You can set intentions and watch reality bend. You can ask for signs and receive them not as parlor tricks, but as sacred confirmations. You begin to work with symbols, with numbers, with dreams, with energy. You become the interpreter of your own divine script. And this is where the 1% gift begins to activate fully. But here's the secret no one tells you. The gift is not the synchronicity itself. The gift is what it unlocks in you. The trust in your own knowing. The clarity of your intuition. The courage to walk a path no one understands. Synchronicities are not the destination. They are the signals that your soul is in command. That you are no longer being driven by fear, logic, or expectation, but by divine intelligence flowing through you. You begin to realize that your life is not linear, it's a spiral. And every synchronicity is a point on that spiral, pulling you inward, deeper, closer to your core truth. This is why chosen ones often feel like they've lived many lives inside one. Because they have. Every phase of awakening feels like a death and rebirth. And synchronicity is the golden thread that ties each chapter together. Let me ask you something that may shift everything. What if every coincidence in your life was actually a coded message from your higher self, designed to wake you up at exactly the right moment? What if you stopped dismissing and started decoding? What if you started living as though the universe was a living intelligence, conspiring not against you, but with you? This is where the path of the chosen one becomes powerful and lonely. Because when you start living by synchronicity, you can no longer live by logic. You'll be called to make moves that others don't understand. You'll be guided to places that make no sense. You'll leave relationships that seem perfect on the outside but feel dead inside. And you'll do it not from impulse, but from alignment. Because the signs are too loud to ignore. And as you follow, something even stranger begins to happen. You become the sign for others. You say something that someone desperately needed to hear. You show up at the exact moment someone was about to give up. You write, speak, create, live in a way that becomes a mirror for others to remember who they are. You become a walking synchronicity, a living oracle. And that, right there, is the top 1% gift. But it comes with responsibility. This gift is not for ego. It's not for control. It's for service. The universe will test your integrity. It will ask you to choose truth over comfort, clarity over popularity, resonance over reward. Because the more synchronicities you receive, the more precise your path becomes. And the more precise your path becomes, the less you can compromise. Are you willing to be that aligned? Are you willing to live so truthfully that the universe reconfigures itself around your vibration? Are you willing to listen that deeply, follow that boldly, trust that completely? Because that's what it takes to embody this path. Not just to notice synchronicity, but to become one with it. This is a spiritual technology, ancient and advanced, a language of light that only a few ever master. But the chosen ones, we didn't come to dabble. We came to remember, to awaken, to walk as bridges between worlds. And every synchronicity we receive is a reminder we are not alone, and we are not random. We are coded for connection. Part 2. The frequency of the unseen, how chosen ones tune into the grid of living messages hidden in plain sight. There comes a moment on this path where you no longer see reality as a series of disconnected events. Instead, you begin to sense a deeper architecture beneath it all, a hidden grid, a living matrix of energy, intention, and divine design. And the more you open your perception, the more you begin to realize that everything is speaking. The trees, the wind, the numbers, the glances between strangers, the sudden delays and detours, they're not noise. They're messages. And the chosen ones are the only ones tuned to hear them. You see, we were never meant to navigate life solely through intellect. Intellect is useful, but it's like trying to navigate an ocean with a teaspoon. There's a larger intelligence at play, one that speaks in symbols, vibration, rhythm, and resonance. And when we raise our internal frequency, we begin to tune into that field. It's not about being psychic, it's about being present. So present that you begin to feel the pulse of the divine in everything. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like you were meant to be there without knowing why? Have you ever turned down a street you've never walked before, only to discover something you needed to find? These are not accidents. These are alignments. The universe is constantly arranging itself around your energy. And when your frequency matches your soul's blueprint, life becomes synchronistic because you're no longer resisting the flow, you are the flow. But here's the part most people miss. Synchronicities are not rewards. They are reflections. They mirror your state of consciousness with perfect precision. If your mind is chaotic, the signs are confusing. If your heart is closed, the messages feel distant. But when you are clear, open, grounded in your truth, the universe responds with breathtaking clarity. It speaks to you in real time because you are no longer fragmented. You are whole enough to hear. This is why healing is not optional on this path, it's essential. You can't hear divine instruction through the static of trauma. You can't decode synchronicity when you're addicted to distraction. The chosen ones are called to do the deep inner work, not for perfection, but for precision. Because the cleaner your internal landscape, the more accurate your external guidance becomes. Your life starts to move in harmony with something sacred and intelligent. And then the magic starts to accelerate. You think of a question, and the answer arrives before you speak it. You set an intention, and guidance arrives in the form of a phone call, a book, a dream. You don't chase, it comes to you. But it's not magic, it's mechanics. You are finally operating from the blueprint you were designed for. And when that happens, the entire field of reality starts working with you. Most people are walking through life half asleep, unaware that the universe is trying to have a conversation with them. But the chosen ones? We're different. We feel the whispers. We sense the nudges. We pay attention to what others ignore. And that sensitivity becomes our superpower. It's not a weakness. It's a portal. And through that portal comes guidance that no algorithm, no logic, no textbook could ever give. But what's the difference between a chosen one who thrives and one who gets lost? Integration. So many awaken to synchronicities and then become dependent on them, like spiritual junkies chasing signs instead of embodying truth. The signs are not the destination. They are the invitation. Your job isn't to obsess over them, it's to align so deeply with your soul that the signs become unnecessary. You already know. You already are. And that's when the most powerful shift happens. You stop looking for signs. You start living as one. Your presence becomes a message. Your choices become a signal. Your energy becomes a directive to the grid. You're no longer just being guided, you're instructing the field through your vibration. That's the 1% level. That's when you stop reacting and start creating. Not from ego, but from embodiment. Let me ask you something that might change the way you see everything. If every thought, emotion, and intention you carried today became a message encoded into the field, what kind of signs would you be sending to others? Would they feel fear or freedom? Would they feel confusion or clarity? Would they feel love or longing? Because once you realize that you're not just receiving synchronicities, but that you're broadcasting them, you become accountable in a whole new way. This is the power that scares the old systems. A human being who lives in constant communication with the divine cannot be controlled. They cannot be manipulated because their guidance doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. They don't need to follow the crowd. They follow the current. And that current is ancient, infinite, and intelligent beyond words. But with this power comes responsibility. You must become fluent in your own energetic language. You must know what your body says when something is right or wrong. You must recognize the difference between fear and intuition. You must know how your soul says yes and how it says no. Because the synchronicities you receive are filtered through you. And if you are not clear, the message gets distorted. This is why solitude is sacred. The chosen ones are often pulled into isolation not because they are being punished, but because they are being retuned. In isolation, you begin to hear your real voice. You begin to discern the authentic signal from the noise. And when you emerge, you are no longer easily swayed. You are no longer confused by every shiny thing. You have inner GPS. and that GPS is connected to the divine grid. You begin to live in a different rhythm. You slow down, you listen more, you react less. You begin to feel time differently. Linear time starts to dissolve, and you begin to experience Kairos divine timing. You stop pushing. You start sensing. You stop planning every step. You start moving when the signal says move. And when you do, doors open that no man could open and no logic could explain. You'll begin to notice that the more you honor these signals, the more effortless life becomes. Not easy, but effortless. Because you're no longer swimming upstream. You're in the current. And in that current, you meet the people you're meant to meet. You say the words you're meant to say. You arrive at the place you were always meant to be. Not by force, but by frequency. And as this becomes your new way of life, you begin to see the world differently. You see people not just as personalities, but as portals to deeper truths. You hear what's not being said. You feel the energy behind the words. You begin to sense when someone is about to shift, awaken, or fall asleep again. And you meet each moment not with judgment, but with sacred presence. There's a humility that rises with this power, because you realize you're not doing it alone. You're co-creating with something vast, ancient, and alive. Call it God, Source, Spirit, the field, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you remember. Remember what you are. Remember what you came here to do. Remember that this world is not solid. It's symbolic, and you are not lost in it. You are encoded into it. So the next time a synchronicity happens, pause. Listen. Don't rush to interpret. Let it speak. Let it settle. Let it activate something deeper than your mind. Because that's what it's doing. It's not just confirming your path, it's awakening your participation in something far greater than the life you thought you were living. And when you truly get this, when it finally lands in your soul, you'll understand life was never happening to you. It was always happening through you. And now you are ready to walk as a living message, a human frequency, a divine signal encoded into the grid of awakening. Part 3, Becoming the Living Code. Why chosen ones are destined to become the synchronicity themselves. There comes a point on this path where you no longer wait for signs, you realize you are one. You are no longer the seeker looking for messages from the universe. You become the embodied message. This is the turning point. This is the moment when synchronicities stop being mere external validations and start becoming reflections of your inner coherence. You're not just in alignment, you are alignment. And that's where the real power begins. The chosen ones were never meant to just read the script of reality. We came here to write it, to walk in such resonance with divine intelligence that our lives themselves become symbols. You walk into a room and the atmosphere shifts. You speak, and it's like the universe is clarifying itself. You move, and people suddenly feel more awake around you, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because your frequency is truth. That's what it means to become the synchronicity. And yet, this doesn't happen by accident. It happens through 1,000 silent choices. The moments when you said no to fear, even when fear felt safer. The nights you sat with your pain instead of numbing it. The mornings you chose presence over distraction. Each of these moments carved something into your soul. They tuned you. They refined you. And now you carry a frequency that reality responds to. Read that again, reality responds to you. But how does this happen? How does a human being become a living code? It happens through integration, through the sacred alchemy of embodying every lesson, every sign, every synchronicity, not just as information, but as identity. You no longer just know truth, you are it. You don't just talk about love, you radiate it. You don't just believe in divine timing. You carry it in your breath, your words, your silence. Have you ever noticed that the most powerful spiritual people rarely have to say much? Their presence speaks louder than sermons. Their eyes hold the kind of peace that can't be faked. Their timing is impeccable not because they plan everything, but because they listen to the invisible. They've become fluent in the frequency of light. And when you meet them, you feel it. You remember something in yourself. That's the effect of someone who has become a living synchronicity. You are being called into that same embodiment. This isn't about being special. It's about being available. Available to be rewired by the divine, to be emptied of false identities, to be shaped by fire and silence and surrender. The chosen ones don't become powerful because they chase power. They become powerful because they surrender to the truth of what they already are. And the more they surrender, the more the universe responds. This is why your intuition becomes so precise, why manifestation begins to feel instant, why you think of someone and they call, why you write something and it goes viral, why you follow a nudge and find yourself in the perfect place at the perfect time. It's not luck, it's not coincidence. It's coherence. The outer world is now mirroring your inner alignment. And the signs are no longer separate from you, they are you. But here's the part no one tells you. Becoming the synchronicity means you'll often feel misunderstood. You'll move differently, speak differently, prioritize differently. The world will not always recognize what you're carrying. But you didn't come here for recognition. You came here for recalibration. You came to retune the collective frequency of this planet by embodying a new pattern. And sometimes that means walking alone. Yet even in your solitude, you are not alone. You are connected to a vast network of other chosen ones, some you've met, and many you haven't, who are all carrying pieces of this living code. And when we come together, something ancient happens. The grid lights up. The field shifts, reality bends, and miracles begin to feel normal. This is not fantasy. This is quantum architecture. This is spiritual reality. Let me ask you something you may have never dared ask yourself. What would it mean to live every day as if your energy was shaping the fabric of reality itself? Would you speak differently? Would you love more fiercely? Would you take responsibility for your vibration instead of blaming the world for your circumstances? Because once you realize that you are the instruction the universe is following, you stop playing small. Every thought is a signal. Every emotion is a frequency. Every intention is a command. You are not a passive observer of this life, you are a transmitter. And when your signal becomes clear, unwavering, rooted in love, the entire field responds accordingly. People will say, "You're so lucky," but you'll know the truth. It's not luck, it's alignment. It's the result of years of private integrity, of choosing truth, when no one was watching. And now, you don't need external signs as much as before, because your whole life has become a sign. Your way of being is the message. You don't chase clarity. You embody it. You don't seek miracles. You are the miracle. You don't need to prove you're chosen. Your frequency speaks for itself. And that frequency is unmistakable to those who are ready. This is the divine reward, not fame, not wealth, not comfort, but inner mastery. The ability to walk through any storm and remain centered. The ability to hear the universe whisper before it has to shout. The ability to know without doubting, and to love without condition, to move with precision and purpose. That is the mark of someone who has become the living code. And yes, the world may not understand you, but the ones who are meant to, they will feel you. They will be drawn to you like gravity. Not because of what you say, but because of what you carry. You are a lighthouse, a transmitter, a reminder. You are the synchronicity that someone else has been praying for. And when they meet you, they awaken too. So now the final question is this: are you willing to live as the transmission your soul came here to be? Not someday. Not when it's convenient. Not when everyone agrees. But now, in this breath, in this moment, in this lifetime, because the grid is waiting, the world is listening, and the frequency of truth is ready to move through you.